Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this April 24th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon. We are glad that you're here this morning. If you want to find our content, there's a location, EOA.network, that takes you to a link tree where you can find a link for our YouTube and our Facebook and Instagram and website, all of those different things. Be sure and check that out. Here in just a little bit, we're going to have Blue Mountain Community College President Mark Browning will be with us. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Another day.
Yeah.
Another first Friday.
Yeah. Boy, it's beautiful out there.
I'm not complaining one bit. Not even one
I know.
bit.
Yeah. This is shorts weather, right?
Yep. 100% shorts weather today.
Yeah.
Yep. No doubt about it. And it will be all weekend, thankfully.
Yeah.
Let's hope it holds on. I'm hoping that we're done with the cold and just kind of move into...
The nights are still chilly though. Yeah. I mean, it's
I don't mind that, actually.
Right.
That makes it like, you know what I mean? Then you don't have to turn the AC on. You can just open the windows up, let some air in, trap it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, when I'm in an environment, like down south or something where it never gets cool, that's for me, that's when it gets exhausting.
Yeah, and humidity. I don't like being wet. Like, I don't like getting rained on, snowed on, or sweated, like that wet feeling.
Yeah.
And so that in the South for me, when I've been there, it's like changing shirt like 5 times a day.
Yeah.
Because I just don't like being wet and sweating.
Yeah, it's just, I was 5 years in Missouri and Kansas, and oh man, it was.
I've never been to that part. I've only been just through Alabama, Atlanta, Miami.
Have you spent any time down there? I mean, or
I was
just
there
visiting?
for a couple of weeks. Yeah, just visiting.
I'll tell you what's crazy. I mean, and everybody knows this, is like, we don't know thunderstorms until you are there, and it's like, I mean, and for hours it's just boom, 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 and then it's like, oh yeah, that's why they call this area Tornado Alley, because
stay away from there.
Oh man, I mean, it is just relentless. Here we get a thunderstorm, and it's vicious for half an hour, and then it's over. And I mean, they just go on and on and on.
I saw a thing this morning on the. I always read the Oregon news in the morning to see what's going on. Did you know what Oregon? The average wait time in an emergency room in Oregon is 5.5 hours.
Wow.
The national average is 3.5.
Really?
We're 2 hours slower in emergency rooms across the state. 5.5 hours. I remember, I had an allergic reaction, and I literally was in the hospital for 5 days. My temperature was 105. And I went to Salem ER, and I sat in the ER for 5-6 hours waiting to get into a room.
Wow.
And I'm having a full-blown, can't hardly breathe, having breathing problems. Yeah. And I'm just sitting out there waiting. And I ended up being in the hospital for 5 days, and they didn't, it wasn't a priority, apparently.
Boy, I tell you, there's a new show on Max called The Pit. And The Pit is an ER. The story is based on ER. And it's written by a guy named Noel Wiley, who used to be on the show ER years and years ago. That was a television show that was pretty famous.
Before. I never watched it.
And only he was a young resident then. Well, now he's written this show, and I mean, it really is good. What's interesting about it is each episode is 1 hour in the shift.
Oh,
and so you're following the same characters over the course of a shift.
So it's real time.
Yeah, it is. It is real time. And so but I mean, it is a really good show. But anyhow, that reminds me, because this ER is in a big city someplace, and their wait times are, I mean, you have people that have been in the wait room for 6 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, in Salem, there's people sleeping on the chairs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not exactly fast here either.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, you know what I mean? I don't know. That's I always thought this to myself. If I'm paying you to give me a service, why am I waiting on you?
Yeah.
I've always thought that. Like at doctors,
Yeah.
if I have an appointment scheduled, right,
Right.
and I don't show up,
Right.
they charge me. Okay.
Yeah.
But if I have an appointment,
They should, but they don't.
3 o'clock,
Yeah.
If I have an appointment at 3 o'clock, sometimes the doctor don't see you till 4.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, but now the doctor ain't paying me. You know what I mean? I'm paying the doctor.
Yeah.
It's kind of backwards.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just weird. I never really got it.
Well, in the past, when I've had physicians, because some, Tanya, I mean, she runs the schedules of 25 physicians. And so, 70% of them they want to be on time, But there are some docs that just, that they just run a little bit late. And so when I've had a physician like that, I always ask when I come into the office, like, okay, are they on schedule today?
Yeah.
Do I need to come back in a half an hour?
Right.
So anyhow, all right.
Draft day today.
Okay.
NFL draft.
Wow.
Yeah,
In
I'm
Green
excited.
Bay?
Yeah. Exciting. We'll get to see what happens with. I mean, this is a pretty good class with football-wise, NFL.
Yeah, a few years ago, Tanya and I were in Vegas. It was for a trade show, and the NFL draft, I think, was the next week. And so we saw. I mean, they were
because that trade show just happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
I
and
know exactly.
NAB, and they were setting up right over the fountains, right on the edge of the strip there. And yeah, it was like, I mean, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
NFL draft's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah. All right. You want to do sports?
Let's do it.
Okay.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. There's comfort, and then there's Sealy Comfort. Sealy mattresses are tested above and beyond industry standards to ensure you get a comfortable night's sleep night after night after night. Find the Sealy mattress that's perfect for you at Northwest Furniture and Mattress. It's also their 10-year anniversary sale. Now through May 3rd, 10% off and a chance to win your invoice paid for. Northwest Furniture and Mattress. Big red rocking chair on Elm, off Adams in LeGrand. I'm going to do a new little segment, and I'm going to find something on social media or on the internet sports-wise, preferably locally, but it won't always be locally, and talk about it. I posted this clip of BMCC versus Wenatchee Valley baseball last night to my social media. I asked if people thought the batter interference call was the right call or not. It was the 9th inning. BMCC was down by 1 run. Take a look. 88% of the people that voted on that clip said that it was a bad call. I'll have to agree. Even if the bat did get in the way a little bit right there, it's the 9th inning. It's the bottom of the 9th inning. You can't make that call. Like, you're taking the game into your own hands as the umpire right there, and it's kind of selfish in my eyes. BMCC coach got tossed for it, and I would have too, frankly. I mean, it would have been, I would have been out in the, out wherever they go when they get thrown out as well. Because the BMCC ended up losing that game 4-3, but got the back end of the doubleheader 8-5, where LHS grad Jay Scow got the save. The Doug Trice Memorial Scholarship is currently taking donations and trying to get people signed up to help out and play in the golf tournament, so you can contact Dana or I for that. We started this to honor Doug, and this will be year 5 of providing scholarships for local high school athletes. If you're interested in donating or playing or volunteering, you can message me on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, or email me at kyle@eoalive.tv. LHS baseball and softball are both in Pendleton tomorrow. Pendleton baseball just had a huge win versus Scappoose. That was a big win for that Pendleton baseball team. While softball took their first loss of the year versus Scappoose as well. Pendleton softball is currently number 1 in the state in the coaches pool, and LeGrand is number 2. So these games tomorrow will put one team in the driver's seat in the GOL, barring a split. I mean, if they split, then everything stays the same. But if one team gets both games, whoever wins those, I mean, they're going to play one more time here in LeGrand, but I don't see Baker or Ontario making any waves in the GOL, so it's all Pendleton and LeGrand. Either way, huge games tomorrow for both LeGrand and Pendleton, baseball and softball. EOU track and field heads to the Twilight Invite at Boise State tomorrow night. Good luck to them. The polls came out yesterday. The men are currently in 10th in the country, and the women, I believe, are 25th. Every year, these Ben Welsh track and field teams are good, man. It's crazy. And finally, the huge event of the weekend. The number 13 EOU softball team hosts number 1 Southern Oregon. This is for all the marbles, too. I mean, the CCC boils down to this weekend, the championship. If EOU sweeps, they're the champs in the toughest softball conference in the country. So their fate is in their own hands. C of I hosts OIT, and OIT is currently in 3rd. And so if OIT sweeps there, we could end up in 3rd. But realistically, we're going to probably end up in 1st or 2nd, and hopefully 1st. It's a huge weekend of softball here in LeGrand at Peggy Anderson Memorial Field tomorrow at 2 and Saturday at 11. This is high-level softball, and 2 of the best pitchers in the country go head-to-head in Kylie Parsons from EOU and Ayla Davies from Southern. The weather's supposed to be nice. It's free to get in, and it's the only place in the country. I was talking with BMCC President Mark Browning about it. The only place in the country where you can watch this high of a level of softball for free. EOU doesn't charge people to get into these games, and these ladies are looking to bring home the outright championship in the toughest softball conference in the country, the CCC. AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. They want to make you comfortable in your own home.
Good stuff. Thank you, man.
Yep.
So for us uninformed, so then his bat, so the catcher was throwing the ball to second.
Yeah, runner steals.
And his bat was in the way. That's what
that's what they called the interference on.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a swing. I mean, it's arguable. Like, I don't think that it was like anything abnormal. And in that situation, you very rarely see that called first off, and you definitely don't see it called in the bottom of the 9th in a 1-run game.
Well, and so then he called the runner safe at second.
No, the runner goes back to first. The batter's out.
Oh, I see.
That's how it works on an interference. So, scratch that. The runner would have been in scoring position with 1 out. Instead, you got the runner back to first with 2 outs for BMCC.
Oh, I see. Got it. Okay.
I mean, the kid just swung. His bat just,
right.
It kind of came into the lane, the throwing lane, but at the same time, like, that's natural movement. Like, there's no...
Well, it is. And when you're throwing the ball like the catcher is, you're aiming at the second base. You're not even paying attention to what is directly in front of you.
Well, yeah, but there's a rule, and it's basically there's a lane, the plate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The batter has to stay in the batter's box. They
right.
can't move
right.
either way, body-wise. But they also can't have anything in that lane, and that's where they.
Oh, I see.
That's where they say the problem was. But I mean, it was just a natural swing. It's not like he stuck his bat out there. It's not like he followed through on purpose and swung it all the way back. But yeah, it's just one of those. It's one of those rules where.
Yeah.
It's all based on judgment, you know what I mean? And it was just these umpires were bad all day. I mean, I watched the whole game, and there was numerous times where both coaches almost got tossed because they were these guys were just not very confident. And in order to be a good umpire, you got to be confident.
Yeah,
that's part of it. You know what I mean? And you can't be blind. I mean, one of my favorite sayings in baseball, and this will get you tossed sometimes, is when you tell the umpire to kick his dog. Kick your dog. That's what you say to the umpire. They're seeing eye dog.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Subtle things. All right. Well, hey, let's look at the weather. Outside, the frame here will be... The roads are clear. I need to change that graphic so that it doesn't come up. It only comes up like for 15 seconds, 10 seconds. Yeah. So, but yeah, it is pretty. And then let's take a look at the weather, Benny. So 68 today, 35. Yeah, just the weather over the weekend is just gorgeous. I don't see any rain, a little bit of cloudiness Saturday,
exciting.
but yeah.
Hey, you know what we didn't talk about?
What's that?
They found a suspicious device
I
over
heard-
there on Jefferson yesterday. Yes, they had like it all closed off for like 4 hours because they had to wait for a bomb squad.
Yeah, I don't know where we were, but I just it didn't come onto our radar.
No, but yeah, that's kind of scary. I was looking at some of the comments and somebody said, yeah, meanwhile, somebody's missing their science experiment at school.
That's right. All right. Well, hey, glad you guys are here with us today. And we'll be right back after this message with BMCC President Mark Browning.
Here we go.
All right, we're back. Hey, how are you, Mark?
I'm well. How are you doing?
We're doing good. Yeah,
Yeah?
we're glad that you're here. And
Yeah, it was
yeah,
a beautiful morning to come over. My goodness, I can't beat it.
I'll bet you.
Yeah,
this,
it was
the
really
set
nice.
is a little bit different. I don't know if you
Yeah,
had noticed
I did.
that.
I picked that up last
So then
time.
you're not having to look back and
Yeah.
forth. Yeah, you can look at both of our ugly mugs at once.
Well, it'd be the same if I had a mirror. Here. So we're all three of us in good company. Let's just say we're not going to be on the cover of GQ.
No.
Yeah, well, good. How's things in Blue Mountain Community College land?
We're good. We're good. We're goodness, fourth weekend of the final term of the year for our spring term.
Flying by.
Yeah, 10-week terms. We're almost at the halfway point already. So, but yeah, things are good. Always busy and moving along. We've got spring sports that we've been talking about are well underway, and I'll have to give Derek and Brad a bad time. I was in Portland yesterday, and so I didn't get a chance to take in the game. But I'm going to say, let's see, do I need to come supervise you?
Right.
What's going on here? But, yeah, we're quickly approaching graduation in June.
So crazy.
That'll be here before we know it. We'll have the opening of the Equine Center next week on Wednesday, the 30th. So
tell us, what is that?
Goodness, this project started a decade and a half ago.
Okay.
Really, and it kind of came from an idea where, because you were doing the weather report, and some days we get a beautiful day at 35 degrees and a high in the high 60s, and it's pretty nice. Other days we get about 40 miles an hour worth of wind,
Right,
and,
yeah.
some blinding
It's
snow
Eastern Oregon.
and grapple.
Right.
There has been a need for an indoor arena, not only for rodeo to practice and hold their events, but also for ag instruction. And now what's really developed in the last 5 to 7 years has been unmanned aerial drone. So we have a facility that we've worked with community partners, worked really closely with the City of Pendleton, the Roundup Foundation, the Intermountain ESD, the Umatilla County, also the Port of Umatilla. Everybody's kind of come together on a project. And we have an indoor arena that is situated fairly close to the Pendleton Convention Center. So it's kind of in that complex there with Roundup, the Convention Center, and us now. We all have a presence there. and that will officially open next Wednesday. So we're already actually having some classes in there this last week where we've had some of our UAS instruction. Weather was, they couldn't fly outside, so they fly inside.
Right.
And,
how big is it? How many square feet? Have any recall?
the arena itself is just slightly, the dirt part of the arena is just slightly larger than Thomas and Mack.
Okay.
In Vegas. Seats about 1,000. So, not the same scale and size of the building, but regulation size, everything's good for everything from barrel racing to, heavy stock shoots, whatever we need. Yeah.
Speaking of rodeo, a BMCC grad just got second in steer wrestling. 3 Eastern Oregon Cowboys in the top 3.
Yeah,
Dakota Eldridge.
Dakota Eldridge is doing very well. He's, Dakota does pretty well just in general, but he's really on fire right now.
Yeah, you had the Baker kid, a Hermiston kid, and a BMCC kid. All. Yeah. I think Dakota's. Where's he from originally? Burns or like somewhere over there?
Yeah, kind of down that way. So
something in the water in Eastern Oregon making these kids.
Oh boy,
wrestle those steers, man.
The Eldridge family is a well-known family name within pro rodeo circuits, and so they're all doing us quite proud.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, we're excited about that. We got a lot of things coming. On the less exciting, maybe not as lights and flashing confetti cannon, but we're close to getting our budget ready for the 25-26 year. I am very happy to say that many schools in the state are really struggling in terms of having to adjust personnel levels. We're not. This will be yet another year where we won't be scheduling layoffs or furloughs or anything like that. It's a modest budget. Our tuition is going to go up $3, which is about 2.5%.
$3 a credit?
Yeah. So our board takes a position where we could have said, you know what, let's wait a year, but then those kind of stockpile, and then you end up with a bigger increase down the road, and that's harder for students and families to really absorb, is what we found. So, we're in a good situation. We have long-term agreements with both of our labor organizations that are fair to all parties, so that we know what to plan on. We're not in that situation now where many have been or find themselves where there's a lot of strife on campus that way. So, we always have stuff we're working on. Right. And, you try, because when you have people, we all have different ways of looking at things, but life's pretty good right now. And we're kind of just hitting our stride a little bit, and enrollment's up. Last year in the 24-25 year, we were up about 10%. We're going to end up this year a little over 8.25%. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a nice strong figure. That's 4 years in a row now. What I really like is the majority of the growth is coming from Eastern Oregon. So it's students that are coming from Umatilla, Union, Baker, Grant, Willow. It's coming from our primary area. So really encouraged about that.
Let's talk about the UAS program for a minute. Okay. Because so early, I think I produced the very first video of the very first drone that took off over there. That once they were, I'm talking about at the UAS field over there. So, and I've watched that program over the years. And in Pendleton, I can't imagine. 25 years ago when somebody said, "Hey, let's do this." Let's do this. People were probably like, "Are you kidding?" And
if you look at there's a chart that Steve Chrisman, who's the economic development director for the city over there, shares often, that looks at the number of flights, and they define a flight as a takeoff and a landing. Right. So the first few years, just very few, and then the last 3 years. It has escalated exponentially. Testing from various companies that have come in, and they are testing different flights. The unrestricted airspace that we have is really fairly unique, because when you look at topography that we have between the Blues and then the rolling hills on kind of the edge of the Palouse, and then the canyons that you get going south, with the water of the Columbia, and then the unrestricted airspace, because not a lot of commercial travel, most of the commercial travel is up so high.
Right.
In that window where they're flying, that window of airspace, it's unrestricted and not a lot of population. So they can do any kind of test flight that they really need to. And companies come, honestly, from all over the world. Brazil and you know, Eastern Europe, they're sending all kinds of folks over here. And you know, you go downtown and have a meal, and you hear Czech, and you're going, now that's one I don't normally hear.
Right, right.
And then you know, you find out where they're from, and they're like, oh yeah, we're here from the Czech Republic, you know, we're at the drone range.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty
Well,
cool.
and what I didn't understand until I spent some time over there with them, and I'm sure that the public doesn't understand, is that for any commercial drone autonomous operation, the aircraft itself has to go through an FAA testing phase. Okay, and these FAA testing airports are distributed around the nation, and the point is then that airframe is subjected to hot weather and cold weather and moisture and you're right, and they need to, and Pendleton has over 300 clear days a year, if I think that's what it was, which is, all of these things are things that I picked up when I was working on that. And so then the forethought of somebody to put that air range in all those years ago, and now you guys, but what I want to get to is, you know, how has that, I mean, talk to me about how that has connected with BMCC.
So the training programs that run out there, we partner with the range.
Okay.
And so we have a variety of different programs. We have non-credit, credit, you can get a degree, you can get a certificate, various ranges. You can go from as condensed as 10 weeks to a 2-year program. We're working on a 4-year program. Depending on what you want to do. And if you want to go and pilot for someone else, we can get you in and out 10 weeks. You have the basics, you can get started.
Right.
If you want to look at this, not only learn how to fly, but learn a little bit more about how to be in the industry for yourself, you're going to want something a little more in depth and takes a little more time. So we partner with the range and the companies that are out there. The biggest thing that's going right now is the incubator center that's there, and it's an innovation hub. And so they bring in a handful of people who apply for their projects, and they say, okay, I have an idea for this. They bring them in under a grant program, and they help them develop that, and being there as a part of that with that really helps us be partnered up with them right from the beginning. And you know, some of these are coming from all over the country. You know, they'll come from Oklahoma, from Texas, and you know, they'll come regionally as well. So we're pretty involved. And it's not the kind of program where you say, well, we have 200 people enrolled, but it's a high touch, high impact.
Right.
And when students come in and they get their training, they can honestly go anywhere and work doing as much or as little as they want. And these are nicely compensated positions where many of them within a year to 2 years of experience are making in the 6-figure range.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a good position in today's economy for a student that you can look at and say, okay, for X investment, here's where my payoff is.
Right.
You know, that's one of the biggest challenges. I tell people all the time, they go, oh, how you getting along with EOU? I'm like, awesome. Wish I had more time to spend with President Ryan. You know, she's brilliant. I can learn from her. I don't look at EOU as our competitor.
Right.
EOU doesn't look at us.
Definitely.
We don't look at Treasure Valley. We
Right.
don't look at Walla Walla or Columbia Basin or OSU. Those are not our competitors. The number one competitor we have is the apathy for the need for higher education.
Yeah.
Right.
And we as higher education need to take a little responsibility for that, because how we've approached it in decades past was, well, everybody has to have a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
No. There are so many ways to go forward. What you need is training. You want to be a nurse? You need training.
Right.
Now, how that training works is you can start as a CNA, you can move into a medical assist, you can go into an LPN, you can go into an RN, and then you can go into a full BSN, and maybe beyond. But you need training,
Right.
right? You want to be an accountant. Okay, you need to train to be able to pass your CPA exam. Now, we've often equated that with, well, you have to get your degree, but what you're really talking about is training. And I think that's where we've missed the boat in the last 10 to 20 years is we've concentrated on degree versus training, but we have to get those paired a little closer because the investment of the person's time and their money and their family's money and quite frankly our taxpayer money between loans and grants that we subsidize these things with, we have to get a better return on that.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a better balance of students who are getting training between, and I don't like the term trades or white collar, blue collar, but it needs to be the full array of what needs to happen.
Right.
I always use the example years ago when I was really first getting started in education. One of my board members was a plumber, a very successful plumber. And he used to rock back in his chair and he goes, well, I don't know much. I'm just a dumb plumber. But he was very, very successful and supported students, everywhere he went. But he used to joke, he'd say, yeah, you don't think much of me until you need me.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And think about some of the services that, even those of us who might take on a do-it-yourself project once in a while, what's the one thing you avoid? I used to say avoid like the plague, but we found out during COVID a lot of people didn't avoid it. So,
Yeah.
But you avoid like the ex-mother-in-law, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Plumbing.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody enjoys plumbing.
No.
There's a reason we'll pay folks to come do plumbing, right? So there are skills and avenues for training. I mean, when we boil down what we do, we're teaching people how to feed themselves. How do you want to do that? Do you want to stand in front of a classroom and teach 8-year-olds all day? Bless you. My older sister is a kindergarten teacher. If there is a heaven, she better be first
I'm with
in
you.
line,
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And then there's a plumber. There's the agronomist who's out doing scientific experiments to find better ways to grow the crop so that we can all eat, right? There is the lawyer for the time that we can't figure out how to resolve conflicts ourselves or to help interpret what's already on the book so that we can, find our way down. There's a role for everything, but it's training. So,
Yeah.
things are good.
Well, good. Well, and I think that you're right. I mean, I think higher education has kind of gone through an entitlement stage a little bit, and
we need to own that.
But on the same hand, that's kind of a natural.
Sure.
I mean, they just followed the natural place.
You do, and if you really want to get kind of retrospective about it, it really started back at the end of World War II, and we had something called the GI Bill, the Service Reintegration Act, that helped servicemen and women who had served their country come home and say, okay, your only option is not to go back to the farm and grow corn in Iowa. You have other options now, because as a country, we were in that place where we needed the interstate highway system, right? We needed a lot of these kinds of things that would be built infrastructure-wise over the next 20 to 30 years, culminating really with the internet in the 80s. So we really had this emphasis on go to college. But what we failed to do was to develop all the different aspects of that in the same timeline. We pushed a lot of 4-year pencil jobs versus everything that's really needed. And now you find, 10, 15 years ago, there was a big study put out by the Lumina Foundation that said, there will be 2/3 of the jobs in almost every state, varying from 60 to 70%, depending on where you went, that job will require training after high school. Higher ed jumped on that and said, well, you're going to need so many degrees. But what you found was for every doctoral degree, and I've got one, there's somewhere between 8 and 15 people that will do positions that will support that. So how many more doctoral degrees do we need? How many more masters do we need? How many more bachelors do we need? Well, it's a scale.
Right.
And what you found was on the certificate level, there might have been a dozen people on that level. People will say, well, I just want to work. And I can go to work hanging sheetrock, I can go on a flagging crew, I can work for the county or the state on a road crew. But you're going to need your certification for hazmat materials. You don't just show up and start schlepping out asphalt. You have to be trained on that kind of thing. There are certifications that go with that. That's all training. And those are the kinds of things we have to, we got to be a little wider scope with that. That's why I say we work in partnership with EOU. We're the #1 transfer partner. So students come to us, many of whom get their 2-year degree before they come to Eastern. they're halfway through or better.
Yeah.
And that helps Eastern balance their need for facilities and faculty and staff, right? Because half of it's done. They can concentrate on those upper level portions of each degree emphasis to be able to really provide outstanding training in those areas. If that's in accounting, we do a lot of teacher education. It's one of the things Eastern's been known for years in our prep program. Last week we had 4 students named in the community college world. We had the all academic team. These are high performing academic students. We had 4. It was the highest number we've had in over 25 years. Wow. 2 of them are getting into education to teach, and they're both coming to Eastern. Well, yay for both of us.
Right, yeah.
And both are local kids.
Right.
One's from Malawa, one's from Helix. Awesome.
Yeah.
So they're more likely to finish their training and come teach in schools in this region
Right.
than to go to the west side or to go out of state.
Right.
So our talent, the most valuable thing we have is this group of young people with incredible mind. They think differently. They think innovatively. They've grown up with an iPhone in their hand. They innovate differently, and they push us to do things differently. I want that talent here at home.
And you want to stay at home.
I want them to, Now, they don't necessarily, if I grew up in Helix, do I need to live there? No, but you know what? Come to LeGrand.
Right.
Go to Baker. Stay in the region.
Right.
Be close enough with mom and dad.
Yeah,
then you
and
can still get there.
once you've been in Eastern Oregon, I've been here almost 30 years now,
Yeah.
and I mean it's my home, and it's so much like Wyoming. We've talked
Yep,
about that
yep.
before, but you can kind of sniff when they don't really consider this their home. I
Yeah.
mean, they don't want to be here,
Yeah.
and so then those kind of professionals that do, I mean, you just have a much appreciation.
Yeah, you really do. And you
yeah.
develop that sense for it.
Yeah.
And
So then when you see a kid that
Yep.
like grew up in Helix or they have some appreciation for Eastern Oregon,
Yeah.
then you know that, hey, they're investing back in their own community. They might not be back in the same town, but
Yep.
they
But-
want to
but
be
they're
here.
here and they-
yeah.
I don't think it's kind of sniff. I think it's like sticks out like a sore thumb.
Well, yeah.
Like, I mean, it's very obvious.
Well,
when
and it's
somebody
not,
doesn't
Yeah.
and
believe
it, I mean, and yeah, but, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, I embraced this place because it was like my home. And we were talking to Les Penning the other day, from CEO from OTEC, yeah.
Yeah.
And he grew up in South Dakota, he's a Western kid.
Yeah.
And so then he just has an appreciation for who it is that Eastern Oregonians are. Yeah.
And you can grow up in other places and, as you say, develop that appreciation. I've met people who have grown up in more populated areas, and they like what life in Eastern Oregon is about.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
we say,
Guilty.
well, it's a slower pace of life. That doesn't mean less engaged or acumen or anything else. We'll appreciate a sunset.
Yeah.
We'll appreciate a beautiful sunrise. We appreciate a nice sunny day with not a lot of wind.
Yeah.
Or the people. Well, my thing's
And
the
it's the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We appreciate the moment where you might be at up in the hills and you see fish sip on a lake and go, that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, or
Now-
a doe being born
Yeah.
at Morgan Lake. I
Yeah.
saw a doe actually
Yeah.
come out of a deer.
How,
was
I mean,
crazy.
it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's an appreciation for that. I can go to the city and I can appreciate many of the things that the city can offer me with, different events and, sporting events and arts and culture. And like, oh, here's this very cool museum and I get to see things. When I go to DC for work, I like to take in the evening as I can, and get to a Smithsonian, get to the National Art Gallery. I appreciate those things. I also appreciate the fact that when I walk down the street, I may not know the person. Well, hey, how's it going? How you doing?
Yeah.
We say hello. We acknowledge.
Right.
It's a little different. So, I grew up in Western Montana. This country feels a lot like home because we're just on the other side of the mountains, right?
Right.
Yep.
I was on the east slope of the Bitterroots. Well, everything else is over here on the west side. It's an appreciation for the way we are. And I think that Eastern Oregonians also embrace that we don't have it perfect, and we like to learn.
Right.
And we'll embrace that. So, you know, hey, we find new and innovative ways to do. You know, we were talking about, you had a clip from a softball game. You can go to the softball game and have your camera out there and shoot that yourself. You watch it on a computer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good innovation.
Yeah, it is. When you talk about the higher education being responsible for the lack of like certificates, and I don't think they bear the whole load of that though. I think a lot of that too was government and the school system, not higher education school system, but the until they started doing the you know the what's it called in the high school, BC,
Where they accumulate credits.
where they learn how to work. It's what they built the house.
Soft skills?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
ATE or CTE.
Yeah, okay.
CTE
Yeah.
programs.
Right.
The high schools pushed you to go to college, like hammered it down your
Yeah,
throat.
No, I think you're right, and you're kind for saying that. Thank you. But I think we all have borne that, right? I mean, I was born and raised on a farm, right? My mom went to 1/4 of college in her entire career. One of the smartest people I know, and came home because you know it's time to get married and going to start a family. And my folks were farmers and later had hardware store, lumber yard, you know, entrepreneur kind of things. The mindset in my house was that college is there, but you can really make your own way. Many of my friends, it was, oh no, you're going to college.
Yeah, that was your family's mindset was rare.
And my wife's family, single mom, 3 kids, and, oh no, all 3 of you are going to college because that's your path forward.
Right.
And for others, you know, now you find your way,
Right.
I didn't go to school till I was 39 years old, right? Earned my bachelor's degree
Right.
at 45.
Wow.
Took me a while to figure it out. I wasn't ready at 18 to go to college. I probably could have gone. I wasn't ready. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Certainly wasn't, I was not of the mindset I wanted to spend more time in the classroom. So,
Right.
you know, you find your way, you find your path. What my point now in the position that I'm in is learning is learning is learning. And for some, that degree path is absolutely the best way to go. For others, it's kind of it's a journey. They come with us for a while, then they go, then they come back. We have to be ready for them whenever they're here to come back and to have programmatic, you know, we talk about UAS, right? Now we're talking about more accelerated, specialized approaches to skill acquisition really is where we're at, I see for the next 5 to 10 years. That's really where it's going to be.
And the stigma of going to college for getting a bachelor's degree is slowly going, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, you have to have a bachelor's degree or you're not going to get a good job. And that's what was thrown down my generation's throat all the time.
You know, we have a little bit of that challenge even on our own campus. Sometimes we say, well, you know, degree required for this. But what we've started to look at now is degree or equivalent experience.
I'll take that all day.
Yeah.
Because we learn things in many different formats. You know, I think of people who've been in the military, some of the best training you can get. And we are getting better, we in education are getting better about equating that to a credit hour equivalent so that we can get it to fit in our system to say, you don't have to go and repeat all this. We know you know this.
Yeah.
You have proficiency in this area.
Right.
And especially for, you know, the term is adult learner, but I mean, a learner, period. For many of them, when they come in, it's, I need to get X so I can get into the workforce.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's get you there. You know, this is not okay, it's going to take 4 years and this is the way it is. And, you know, no. If you have the ability to do it and can demonstrate what you already know, then let's accelerate that and get that.
Yeah, that's what happened with my dad. Like
Yeah.
he went back to school and got his bachelor's, his master's, you know, everything. And it was probably similar to your circumstances. And it was just like, you know, like I need to get through, like figure it out. And they ended up finding ways to give them credit for.
And I think you're exactly right. And I think that the institutions that will flourish in the next 5 to 10 years will be those of us who can find a way to balance that with what our regulations are and the people we answer to. I mean, we answer to a locally elected board, but our licensure comes from accreditation.
Yeah.
Well, we just saw that the president issued an executive order last night that really goes after the accrediting bodies. Well, based on certain criteria. And what I would say is, we have the same accrediting body that EOU has, that OSU has, that Gonzaga has, that Boise State has. We're all in the Northwest. 2-year, 4-year, public-private. We're all, for-profit. We're all here together. Work with us on things like credit for prior learning. I can't remember if we talked about this last time I was here, but the Carnegie Credit Hour, when someone says, oh, this class is 3 credits or 4 credits, it's based on a calculation of how much time you spend in the seat. Well, to me, that's an antiquated concept.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, 100%.
The outcome is, what do I know? What do I know when I come into the class, and what do I know upon leaving?
Right.
And that's often based on how you do different coursework throughout the term, right? There's a test, there's a paper, there's a quiz, and your progression is noted. Well, let's find some more innovative ways. There's a baseline when you come in, and then there's competency when you leave.
Right.
And the 3 credit or 4 credit, we have to find different ways to be able to do that, because that's how the entire system is based on what the credit hour is.
Well, and the hours in the seat. I mean, virtual learning with that goes out the window.
Well, and there are organizations that are doing this really well.
Yeah.
Western Governors comes to mind, right? It's competency based. You go at your own pace.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have to be able to find ways to do that within the programs that we can, because in my eyes, that's what students are looking for. Many want, hey, I want to do that. I'm going to show up Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 o'clock to 10:50, and I'm going to take my speech class, right? Others are like, you know what? I don't have time for that. I'm working. I got family. I got this. I got softball. I got whatever's going on. I got time at 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
And there's some days I'm going to roll till 3, and I'm going to roll through 3 or 4 units here, right? We've got to be able to accommodate that. Otherwise, we're not going to have a chance to connect those people to the knowledge they need to get the positions that they want.
Yep.
So it's going to force us to change and evolve, and that's the fun part about it.
Yeah.
Right.
You mentioned the GI Bill. My dad was the first in his family to get a degree through that. And then when it came to me to go to college, it was just a presumption that I was
You're
going.
Gonna go.
But what was different then was that the degrees led somewhere.
Yeah.
The degrees led to an occupation. There
Yeah.
wasn't a degree and that was
General
like
studies
that
or
was
whatever.
that was like, oh yeah, what are you going to do with this when you get done? I have no idea. So
And that's an area, I think you're right, Brent, that learning for learning's sake.
Yeah.
And this always gets into this debate about, well, you need to be offering things that lead to good paying, high wage positions, and not everything is. And you try to balance that with what the student wants. Because, we get students who come in and they say, well, I really like philosophy. Awesome. Are you going to teach? What are you going to do?
right.
Psychiatry. I could get into counseling. Well, awesome, because we know we need more mental health professionals in this country. What are you going to do with that? And there's been a certain percentage of us that have said, learning for learning's sake is good because it completes the person. You're better educated, you're more well-rounded, you're more tolerant, but you also have to be able to buy the box of Wheaties in the morning.
Right.
And not everything is about money, but you have to be able to support yourself. One of the worst things that happens is a student goes 3.5 years, they don't see an end in sight, they don't see a job in sight, they drop out. Now they have all the cost of the education and no real way to help them pay for it. So how do we do that? And this gets to the argument where I'm leading with this is many of our technical programs, we talk to the employers to try to stay up on the technical side of it, whether it's diesel, whether it's welding, ag, whatever it might be. And by and large, they'll tell us, and it's the same with most schools around. Your technical skills are top notch. They can weld till end of day tomorrow. Perfect beads every time. But they don't have great communication skills. They don't have, you mentioned soft skills, right? Can they talk to a customer? Can they engage with a coworker? Can they engage with the customer?
Yeah.
My favorite story is I was talking with a fairly large diesel outfit here in the last year, and we were talking about our program because we said, you know, we feel like we need to tweak this up a little bit. And they said, look, your people have great skills, but I can't put them in a truck, a service truck, and send them out on a service call during the middle of wheat harvest, and they roll up and they jump out, and here's the farmer who's got a $500,000-$600,000 combine that's broken down. Weather is good now, but it may not be good next week, and they got to get through X thousand acres between now and then, and that thing's broken down. This farmer is pegged on the stress meter, and Jimmy jumps out and goes, "Sup, dude?"
Yeah, no.
Bro, let me look.
Yeah.
Let me look.
Yeah.
And crawls up on there, and probably from a diagnostic standpoint, we'll have the thing dialed in about 10 minutes. And then he comes down and goes, "I'll text you," and then they take off.
Yeah.
You can't have that
Right.
with your brand on it if you're XYZ Diesel, right?
Right.
You've got to have an individual who has that technical skill to say, "Good evening, sir. Thank you for calling us. I understand you're having a problem. Walk me through what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, here's what I'm looking for. Okay, this is where, you know, we show that it's at. I'm going to need this, you know, capacitor, whatever it is. I've got one in the truck. I got to, you know, order it in. I'll have it here tomorrow morning. I'll have you back, you know, in the field by 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon."
Yeah.
You know, whatever it might be. And then working with the supply chain on the other side. And, you know, my youngest son's an engineer. Brilliant. But we have to work with him to not talk like an engineer all the time.
Right.
Right.
Your mom just wants you to take the plates out of the cup and put them on the table.
Yeah.
You don't have to calculate the slope, you know, deviant of everything of how the plates are going to sit on the table.
Yeah.
Right? So communication skills, interpersonal skills are huge. And those often come from programs that get lumped into this, well, you know, that's in a liberal arts degree.
Yeah.
But it's our technical programs all the time that's the number one thing that companies say our graduates are missing, are really, and some of that's generational.
Yeah.
Very, very much so.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're talking about generation Alpha and Z that have grown up texting with emojis.
Right.
I can't tell one little smiley face from the other. I don't know what one or the other means, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty good with the thumbs up or the exclamation point.
I mean, you got the
or a
sup
heart.
bro down 100%.
So I got those three. That's the extent of it,
Right.
Yeah.
right? But it is learning how to communicate effectively in probably the most challenging time in human history, you know, from boomers all the way down to Gen Alpha. We all come at this thing really
Yeah.
differently.
That's the thing, though, with online learning. You don't learn how to do that, though.
Well, it's very different. And what we find, you know, students, we talked about this before, students always vote for their preferences based on how they register.
Yeah.
We'll put up a course in whatever it might be, and that in-person course will sit there like an awkward 7th grader at a dance, man. All by itself, nobody paying attention to it, right? I know.
Right.
You put up an online course, they're the most popular kid in school.
Yeah,
Boom,
it
boom,
fills
boom,
up
boom,
the
boom.
fastest.
3 sections
Yeah.
fill, and there's a wait list.
Yeah.
But we know what comes as a benefit of being in person, right? You
Right.
can't hide behind the screen. You can't turn your camera off. And
You're
so
forced to talk to people.
and you're forced to interact. And sometimes you're not so good at it, but you get better at it.
Right. Well, and I think that students learning, them learning is not always the goal when they're in the process of
Yeah.
learning. You know, I mean, a lot of it, they're just trying to check the box. I mean, that's certainly how I would have been, or I
Yeah.
was, you know, it's like, no, I don't want to take this speech class.
Oh.
I know that's between me and graduating, and so what's the easiest way to
I'll
get
do
through
anything
this?
I can to avoid it.
Right, yeah.
We've all done it.
Right,
And
and
typically it's math.
Right.
By and large, in this country, it's math.
Yeah.
We put off math because it's hard. Now, there are those who speak math and they love it, and God bless them.
That's me.
Right.
I love math.
So I am so thankful for people like you who helped people like me that don't naturally speak math.
Yeah.
But we have to find a way.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with somebody, our vice president of instruction the other day, who is a geologist by trade, but also taught a lot of physics. And he said, well, you just teach math without numbers.
Pretty much.
That hurt my head.
Right.
Because math has always been about numbers to me
Yeah.
from the time I was a first grader in 1967.
Yeah.
He said, well, a number is just a symbol. So he said, you just substitute symbols. And he said, that's how you can teach math to people who don't, quote, get numbers. You just change symbols. This symbol added to this symbol gives you this symbol. I'm like, I got to stop. And I got to tell you, it was important. Yes, I drove all the way down and back. 2/3 of my drive was thinking about that. And he taught me without me being in the classroom. And I learned a lesson after the fact. And I often think about that. Things that I learned at the time that I didn't know I learned until they really came into a point to be applicable in my life.
Yeah.
And, but math is one that we naturally.
No,
put off.
it's. I guess the one thing I'm kind of thinking about. I mean, I made some notes that are super critical in learning, but one of them is doing things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's a problem still. I mean, that's a problem in society because we want to take the least path of resistance to wherever it is that we're going. Okay. And so then, but if me developing and learning, if that requires me doing something that I don't want to do, then, and I don't have the motivation to get myself there,
Right.
then how do I get there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What motivates us?
Right, right.
You know, one of the best bosses I ever had in my life had that figured out, that he would look at his staff and he knew that each one of us was motivated differently. And so he would manage us differently. And I
Right.
think of this often in sports. You know, superstars get managed differently than rookies, than
100%.
than, you know, kind of middle career or middle role players. You know, a role player, you know, we got the, I guess people still watch the NBA. I don't really, but I hear it on the sports report, so I'm imagining people still watch it. But, you know, a middle role player who comes off the bench and gives you 10, 12 minutes, right? Mid-range jumper shooter, they're managed differently than the superstar.
Than LeBron James. Yeah.
Exactly, because they're motivated differently. So you manage differently.
Yep.
And I think within education, we're coming into an age where the mass approach, 400 kids sitting in a classroom taking biology 110, it's got to be more specialized. It's got to be more individualized because that's the way our generations are growing up now. Everything is specialized because they can hold it in their hand.
Interesting.
It's on my phone.
Right.
It's for me. I got this video. I saw this post.
Yeah.
It's very singular. So the expectation is that I will be taken care of that way. We see it with students now. They need much more hand-to-hand help. We have more and more students taking courses online, which leads you to believe, well, you know, they're online, you know, you don't have to do these things. But their request for services that are face-to-face between tutoring, advising, mental health, counseling, financial aid, just navigating some of those things. And I think it comes from a place where I'm used to getting help right here.
Right.
I can honestly and sometimes get my doctor on a video call.
Right.
And they can help me. I don't have to go be one of the masses and sit in the waiting room.
Right.
So I think that's, you know, part of where we're headed is just it's finding an approach that really capitalizes on that individual aspect.
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, that's a real challenge for somebody who's been teaching for 20 years.
Yeah.
And they're teaching
Yeah.
and
Oh,
they're in a, I mean, they've got a system, they've got
Yep.
their curriculum, and they're like, wait a minute,
This is how I do.
I've got to customize my curriculum for, yeah, right.
I look at what faculty have adapted to in the last 5 years.
Right. With
Oh,
COVID.
Crazy.
Between the onset of COVID and then coming out, but the different modalities. Every class now is at minimum 3 to 4 different modalities or manners in which they deliver a single class. Used to be, hey, my class is 10 to 10:50 in room X. I'll see you there.
Mondays,
Right.
Wednesdays, and
Right.
Fridays.
Here's my syllabus. Here's
Right.
boom,
Right.
boom, 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 boom. Well, now I also have that class live online. I also have that class asynchronous, meaning that it's recorded, and I can log on at 1 o'clock in the morning and watch the class.
Right.
Or there's a hybrid, which means there's an assignment posted based on work that's done outside of class time and then posted up to that, or that they flex it, that it's a combination of all of those.
Yeah.
And the faculty
Wow.
members adapting to that, and it's a challenging scenario for the faculty, and for some that have just said, you know what, I don't want to do that, and I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
I get it. Others have come into it and said, okay, I understand that that's how it is, but there has to be limits.
Mm-hmm.
And the student, you know, I'm often told by my millennial children, you boomers need to just get out of the way.
Yeah.
You're holding us back. And in some ways we are. I
Yeah.
get it. But you know what? Respect the fact that we lived through the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
Okay? We lived through Vietnam and the Grateful Dead and hippies and, all of us, we lived through that. So we may not know what every single emoji means, but we've seen some things. And your time is coming, but they're not patient.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it's a good thing they're not because, you know what? There are faster. I drive my oldest son crazy because he said, you use about 2% of your iPhone. Well, yeah, I want to take a phone call, maybe send an email or a text. That's pretty much what I'm there for. I might play Scrabble once in a while. That's it. I don't really care that it will set all these automatic things for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't really need that thing running my life more than it already does.
Right.
But it's a different mindset. They don't see it as running their life. They see it as a tool that they can use to do something.
I'll tell you one thing. The millennials are lucky that Generation X is in between them.
And the
because
boomers.
we're the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Like, we really are. Like, Generation X was late enough that, we experienced internet at a fairly young age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think we had internet at my house like when I was like 18, 17,
Yeah.
somewhere around there. It was in school 8 years before that or whatever.
Enough that you probably typed on a word processor or
Absolutely.
a typewriter.
And But then we also have the values that boomers hold dear to their heart. You know what I mean? We were taught that, and man, could you imagine if we just jumped straight from boomers to millennials? This country would be in real trouble.
I love that. I guess it's a meme is what it's called. I know what memes are, but it is, the reason that Generation X has trust issues is that they were raised on vinyl and then told that cassette 8-track, then told Blu-ray, and then told CD, and then told download. And every time, it's like, I have all my favorite music.
Well,
here.
and
I
now
gotta reset.
And now it's going
back to vinyl.
I know.
Yeah, it's
Crazy.
the
I mean, how many of us had boxes of vinyl?
yeah,
I just gave it away.
yeah.
And I think,
I still have mine.
I wish I'd hung on to it.
With money nowadays.
Oh, what I wouldn't have done with that original, Toys in the Attic album right now. Oh, would love to put that on. Anyway.
Hey, Mark, thank you.
Hey, it's been my pleasure. I always enjoy coming over and getting caught up. So
Yeah,
thanks
thank
for
you
the
so
invitation.
much for being here. Yeah, and we appreciate what you're doing at BMCC.
Well, we appreciate the support that the community drives us, and as we talked, it's a special place.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. It's nice. We feel pretty lucky.
Thank you, man.
You bet.
You want to get us out of here?
Let's do it. On this day, April 24th, 1704. That's a long time ago. The first continuously published newspaper in America, the Boston Newsletter, is published in Boston by John Campbell. 1872 on this day, Mount Vesuvius erupts in Italy. 1898 is a pretty big day in American history. What happened on this day in 1898?
1898, turn of the century.
Spain declared war on the U.S. after we wouldn't withdraw from Cuba. 1898 on this day. Yeah. Or no, they wouldn't withdraw from Cuba.
Okay.
Excuse me. The U.S. told Spain they had to get out of Cuba, and they wouldn't get out. I got that flipped up. 1956 on this day. Speaking of umpires, I had to throw this in there. AL umpire Frank Umont is the first umpire to ever wear glasses in a regular season game.
Wow.
Really?
That's 50 years after.
Right.
So for 50 years, umpires never wore glasses.
Huh. Well,
That's
I wonder
wild.
if it was a thing. It was like, yeah.
No, well, it's funny because they all should wear them, really, in my eyes. In 1986, on this day, the film Crocodile Dundee, starring Paul Hogan and Linda Kozlowski, premieres in Australia. And it goes on to be the highest grossing film of the year in the U.S., which it's a great one. That's not a knife.
I was going to
Yeah,
say one of the
no,
classic
what year was
lines.
that?
86.
1986. 2018, talking about music and streaming and CDs. Streaming music services overtake worldwide sales of CDs and vinyl for the first time ever.
In 18.
2018, yeah. On this day, the #1 movie in America is, in 1985, the cult film masterpiece Police Academy 2, their first assignment. Man, that
Tackleberry.
Bobcat Goldfrey, and yeah, man, that was just
Love
great.
Tackleberry.
I don't remember the guy's name that does
Bubba
the sound
Smith.
effects. No, the Bubba Smith
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
the
the
football
guy in the
player.
back. Yeah.
The sound effects guy was the best, man.
Yeah.
He still is out there.
Dude, he's
Stuff.
so good. Quote of the day comes from Henry Cloud. Good pain is pain in the service of a purpose. Bad pain is pain endured because we are resisting a needed growth step. One more time. Good pain is pain in the service of a purpose. Bad pain is pain endured because we are resisting a needed growth step.
All right.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thanks again, Mark.
Yeah, it's good
Yeah.
to see you.
Always your pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Appreciate. Don't forget the softball games this
Yeah,
weekend.
big ones tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tomorrow at 2:00, Saturday at 11.
Yep.
And if you get a chance, check out Pendleton and LeGrand they're going to be streaming it on Game Changer, and the softball games will be streamed on NFHS.
Yep. Alrighty. Thank you guys. We'll see you soon.